One of the reasons that a tritone sub works so well in jazz is that it creates a certain chromaticism. Here we have a very common chord progression in jazz, 2-5-1, E minor 7, A7, D. And you see that in different keys through this progression. When we employ the tritone sub, we talked about E flat as the tritone, a tritone of A last lesson. When we employ the tritone, in this case E flat, we get chromaticism. So a really nice sort of voice leading in the bass. E to E flat is a half step, E flat to D is a half step. So it's very common to see that and hear that in jazz. The other thing that makes it very effective outside of the chromaticism in the bass is the similarity in the chords themselves. They have different roots, but the third and the seventh of the chords are the same. Now they're inverted. For example, in an A7 chord, we have C sharp is my third and G is my seventh. In the E flat 7, we have G as the seventh, and let's call it C sharp. We probably wouldn't, but we'll call it C sharp as my seventh. So you see the third and 7 inverted, but 2/3 of the chord, if we're going root 3, 7, are exactly the same. The part that's distinct is the part that gives us the chromaticism in the bass. So as I look at this progression, and I play this progression, let's say, I might play as written. I might just play E minor 7, A7, D. I might play the A7 for the first half of the measure and then the E flat 7 in the second half of the measure. I might completely blow off the A7 and just play the tritone substitution. So I have a lot of flexibility, a lot of leeway there in my comping, my accompaniment. What I would like you to do is go through and figure out what the tritone sub is for each of these chords. And then after this, you're going to hear me playing this particular tune, this particular standard, in a pretty simplistic way. The first chorus, the first time through, I'm going to play the melody with the written chord. The second time through, I throw in the tritone sub in each of these instances. Then I'm going to improvise, and in my improvisation, you'll hear me, as an improviser, think very clearly about A7, for example, very clearly about G7, very clearly about F7 the first time through, and I'm going to flip that the second time through, which is our birthright. We're allowed to do that. If the band is playing A7, you can still employ the E flat 7 chord in your soloing. I know I'm going over a lot of stuff here and throwing out some terminology. Maybe that's foreign or unfamiliar. Please ask about that. I don't want to brush over anything and just assume. But so give a listen. You're going to hear me in the chord melody portion of it. Really play it as scripted, just as it's written, or attempt to. And the second time through playing the melody, I'm going to substitute with the tritone substitution. Work the melody into that. And then as an improviser, I'll do the same thing. Play the chord. Improvise as if the chord is A7, and then pretend it isn't. Use the tritone sub in my soloing lines. Okay, thanks.